Good morning, everyone. This is Michael Gibbs, and I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers. And we're here today to help answer any type of cloud computing career questions you may have. Perhaps it's your goal to become a cloud architect, or you desire to become a solution architect, or you desire to become a cloud engineer or an enterprise architect. That's why I'm here to help you get there as fast as possible because I know the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And I've been in technology now for about 25 years, and I've spent about 2 decades now either helping others get their first tech job or building their tech career and getting promoted as well. And I want to help you. So that's why I'm here. I know that with a little bit of the proper guidance, you can get there so much faster and get much higher in your career than you could on your own. So that's why we're here, to build your best career. And in this session, you can ask us any questions about how to get that cloud architect job, or solution architect job, or cloud engineer job. Ask what you need to learn, what you need to study. Ask what effort it takes to get to your goals. And that's why we want to do anything we can to help you on this channel. Before we begin, I'd like to tell you about some things that we have going on. Next Thursday, we have an unbelievably big webinar planned on how to get your first cloud job. We're going to be putting it in multiple places. It's going to be a fun and wonderful experience. So please join us next Thursday on the How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. Register. The link is in the chat box as well as the description below. In September, we're going to run a LinkedIn and resume workshop. The average student at Go Cloud Careers gets hammered and bombarded by recruiters. I'd like to interview you. I've got someone that wants to interview you. I need someone that needs to interview. That's our students' biggest challenge, is saying, I'm still learning. And there's obviously they're not going to stay, they're still learning. They obviously need to tell them that, they might be looking in the future, et cetera, but not now. Build their network of recruiters, which they all do. But here's the thing. The point is when recruiters are coming to hire you, you don't need to be applying for jobs. I've got students that get hired without even a single application. And we want the world coming to you. And that's part of building your correct brand, showing that you are exactly what the hiring manager needs to bring you in for the interview, making sure that your resume is going to guide the interviewer on your areas of expertise to make them like you even more, so you can show your competency and show how you're right for the job. So you can join us for that. Very soon, very, very soon, my team is going to be releasing a book completely free on passing the Google Professional Cloud Architect exam. It's been a wonderful experience, and it's going to be completely free. Please sign up to get the book as soon as it's ready. The link is in the chat box as well as the description below. And one last thing. It's been my birthday week. It's been an incredible week, and we are on sale at 30% off. So take advantage of anything that you desire on our menu. Want to become a cloud architect? Get our Cloud Architect Career Development Program for 30% off. Want to become a cloud engineer? Get our Cloud Engineer Career Development Program. Again, 30% off. 30% off of everything. So take advantage of this now so you can build your absolute best cloud computing career. So at this point, if you give me a hashtag, cloud architect or cloud engineer, whichever job that you'd actually desire, and if you could tell me exactly where you're at in the chat box, I'd like to know. And then bring me some of your questions. We'll have a great morning. Good morning, Alonzo Coleman. Yeah, happy to see you here as well. Ciao, good morning. Ciao for my team. She's wonderful, wonderful in many ways. Shooting for the stars. Happy late birthday. Thank you so much. It's still my birthday. I'm celebrating it all week. Eddie Patrick, good morning. How are you? Win. Hi, Mike. Hope you had a fun birthday. Can you explain more on what will be included in the LinkedIn workshop? It's really, sure. The LinkedIn workshop is really about making sure that the person that attends learns how to build their optimal resume. The resume that highlights their strengths. The resume that shows that they're worthy of an interview to the hiring manager, because that's the whole point of a resume, is to get you an interview. A resume that will be more likely to be read. A resume that will guide the interviewer into your strengths, because your resume dictates to some degree what your interview is. And if your resume is exactly on what it should be, you'll get interviewed in exactly the skills of your job. And you can guide the interviewer by showing your strengths on your resume and guide the interviewer when they interview you to the things that you're good at as opposed to the things that you're not good at. So we'll teach you that. Really, the key of doing the resume is as follows. We want people coming to us for jobs. We don't want to be going to them for jobs. We don't want to be dealing with an applicant tracking system that's going to mill through 5,000 resumes and look for keywords and hope we can pass that computer system. We don't want that at all. When we have someone that lacks experience, HR will auto-reject them, and we don't want that at all. But if we get the right candidate in front of the right hiring manager with or without experience, it doesn't matter. And that candidate can show that they have competency and they can do the job, they're getting hired. That's the key. So this is about producing bait. A resume is like bait. If you want to catch sharks, you need the right bait. So we teach you how to produce the right bait in your resume and LinkedIn profile. And we'll demonstrate it with a few people's examples, and then obviously you'll know what to do for yours. And that's when the sharks attack, when the right bait is there. So we're going to teach you how to produce the right bait. That's really what it's all about. My students get bombarded. Are you ready for a job? Are you looking to change jobs? Are you looking to change jobs? I want you to have that kind of bait. Now, Lynn, you obviously also have to have the skills. The interview or the resume without the right skills is it's a non-starter, because you can get the interviews, but if you can't win the interviews, what's the point? But when you're ready, win. And if you've got the skills, win. The right bait will get you the right interviews. And I don't know how to interview. You prove it to the hiring manager that you are competent, energetic, enthusiastic, passionate, that you know what you know and you know what you don't know, that you're willing to go above and beyond, and you're a great team player, and they can't help but hire you. So that's why we do what we do. And that's what this resumes workshop is about. And it's a great question you asked, and thank you for asking. Chris or Chow, you can go to the next one. I love that, Alonzo Coleman. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. And yes, with the audience we have in as many places, yes, it's I'm sharing evening, afternoon, or morning somewhere too. Ask us some questions that we want to help you. Shoot for the stars. Is there anything that we need to know about the new version of the AWS Cert exam? Shooting for the stars. I know the certification providers want to feel good and talk about something when they say, oh, big new changes. But here's the thing. It's all the same. Yeah, there's a couple percentage points in different directions. And yes, I'm sure the questions will be worded a little bit different. So for all the people that bought a practice test that was the real test, the questions may be different. So it'll change there. But a load balancer is a load balancer. A firewall is a firewall. A VPN concentrator is a VPN concentrator. Object storage is still object storage. Block storage is still block storage. The databases are the same. Yeah, sure, they'll add one or two names of some new machine learning services that at a gentle, superficial layer. But yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, the CCI exam that I did 5 years ago and the ones they do today are pretty darn similar. I mean, in most cases. The CCNA exam of 25 years ago and the CCNA exam of today are similar. Sure, today includes some wireless and a few other things, but the basic principle is the same. Subnetting, the same spanning tree, and the same basic, switching versus routing and how these things work. They're all the same. So no, they're not much different. And that's the thing. When your fundamentals are strong, shoot for the stars. If it's today's version, next year's version, the version 3 years later, it's still all going to be the same. It's because you can't get that much different. So basically the same thing. There was a song, Meet the New Boss, same as the old boss, because the underlying technology is the same. So shoot for the stars. The cloud is 20-some years old. I've been working on it since 1996. Look, first that it was a Framula cloud, then it was an ISDN cloud, and it was a ATM cloud, and then a BGP cloud, and then a VPLS cloud. The cloud's forever. And when your fundamentals are strong, it's good. So I wouldn't worry about it at all. Granted, when I take a test, I do like to do a practice test for the following reason. The way they ask questions on some of these exams can be wacky. So I like to use a practice test to get used to the way these people communicate on exams, because it's not normally the way I would communicate. So when I go to another country, I try to speak the language in that country, and I try to brush up on that language before I go there. Makes communication, say, a lot easier. And kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So I like to do that. So when I'm going to have an exam, I would get a practice test. I would make sure that, the knowledge in my head, which might be the real way to do it, also to some degree can correlate with what's in a certification, because you might need to master the certification things, which are different than the real way, which a lot of the time. But all in all, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Version 1, version 2, version 27, all going to be very, 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 very similar. So a couple of machine learning changes, but nothing worth talking about. Percentage of what they weight each thing changes, but meaning like, we'll weight this thing 18%, 16% versus 20%, but it's all very, very similar stuff. So nothing to worry about. Same simple exams as before. Build your good fundamentals. Get strong on your fundamentals. Master those fundamentals. And then shoot for the stars. If it's the AWS cloud, the Google cloud, the Azure cloud, who cares? It's all the same thing to you. Nuix version of the exam, same thing. Nutanix cloud, same thing. OpenStack cloud, same thing. Alibaba cloud, great, same thing. Just the names have changed, so don't worry about it. It'll be good shit. And actually, while we're at it, let's talk about the platforms and the similarities and the differences. When we're dealing with technology, it's usually, for the most part, incremental. There's an RFC 1925, more of a joke RFC, but they talk about things that are truths. They say, whatever you see today, there'll be a new version of it tomorrow. Yeah, it'll be faster, but it's going to be very, very, very related. Kind of keep that in the back of your mind. And the technology on all these platforms is identical. We've got a network and a data center, right? Physical devices, yeah. And then we add a virtualization layer and a control plane, and we hyperconverge it. Now we've got a data center, right? With cloud software running on top of that. So it's the same tech with some extra software on top of it. Now we decide we can use that extra software to rent out a percentage of the data center to somebody else, and that's a cloud. So what are the cloud services really? Network and data center services, the same services we've used for the last couple of decades. A virtual machine, a container, a firewall, a load balancer. It's the same. Same virtual machine, same software that we're running on it. It's all the same. So it's not worrying about, certification version A versus version B versus version C. The reality is just knowing the name of the service the way they call it with all the funny names they make up isn't valid knowledge anyway. Because when I got to talk to my customer about their 3 petabytes of object storage, I'm not going to be talking to them in terms of S3. I'm going to be talking about object storage. We might be talking about metadata. We might be talking speed, performance, things that really matter. And you know what? Whether it's on the cloud or the data center, that's what matters. So when I bring in my storage architect, and my storage architect is talking to the storage team, they've got to use the same language, the common lexicon, so to speak. They can't be talking about AWS or Azure or Google branded terms. They're dealing with a customer that knows what the real tech is. They got to use real tech terms. And then there's that. So you can't shoot for the stars. Object storage is the same on all clouds. It's the same object storage we've been using for the last 30 years. Whether you call it S3, blob, or cloud storage, depending upon whether it's Google, Azure, or AWS, who cares? You got a virtual machine. Does it matter if it's running off of a Citrix Zen hypervisor, a KVM hypervisor, a Windows Hyper-V hypervisor, a VMware ESXi hypervisor, and an AWS Nitro hypervisor? What's the difference? It's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. And then if they call it an EC2 instance or a compute engine instance or an Azure virtual machine or an Oracle virtual machine, who cares? It's the same technology. So shoot for the stars, learn the tech. Don't learn the cert, learn the tech. Look, passing the cert's nothing when you understand the tech. So learn the tech. And then if it's version 3 or version 33 of the exam, shoot for the stars. It'll all be silly easy for you. So that's my recommendation. Don't get bogged down on the details of which version of it. Get bogged down in the details of learn and master your career. Be great at what you do. Be powerful at what you do. And be so good at it that no matter what, no one can question your competency. Be awesome there. Chris, can we bring in Shang, Samoa, Alphonse real quick? So, Jordan. So, Jordan, first, your father, Samoa, is one of the finest people I've ever met in my entire life. I am honored and privileged to call him a friend. Secondly, I've seen your work, Jordan, and I think you're 10 years old. And I've seen you do better things with technology than some 30 and 40-year-olds. Jordan, I am so thankful that you're here. Anything that I can do to help you, just let me know, Jordan. And you want to be like me when you grow up. I hope you are. I hope you do bigger and better things than I ever get to do. And I know you're going to, because I've seen you are where you are at your young age. I know your mother. I know your father. I've seen videos of you doing things in the cloud. And wow, Jordan, it's such an honor to see you. Truly, truly, truly an honor to have you here. Thank you. Please come back as much as you possibly can. I'm just so happy to see you here. Jordan, you're more than welcome. So, Alonzo Coleman, yes, Jordan is awesome in so many ways. Here's how unbelievable. I saw a video of Jordan one day, and I was posted by Jordan's mother. I immediately reached out to Jordan's mother on LinkedIn because I thought what you were doing was so impressive for someone your age. And then all of a sudden, my friend Samoa says, "Hey, Mike, that's my son." And I went, "Oh my God, now I get the connection of all these wonderful things." So wonderful to see. Good morning, Emmanuel. So happy to see you. Up and up. Cloud Harding, Cloud Architect, wonderful to see you. Collins, good to see you on, look, I think Twitch this morning in Houston. Eddie Patrick Cloud, hired Cloud Architect. It's great seeing you there, Eddie. And yes, Chris Johnson, as he says, do not be shy and answer your questions. I'm like a soft, gentle, cuddly teddy bear when it comes to answering questions. I truly, truly, truly want to help all of you build your best lives and careers. Up and up. Hi, Mike. I'm one of your recruiters, one of your students. And yes, recruiters reach out to you every day. It's hard to catch up with all the responses now. Can I help you with how to know what is a good recruiter? Up and up, yes. So first, up and up, thank you for taking advantage of our resume advice. Thank you for using our LinkedIn advice and our branding advice, and also thank you for doing our training and becoming a great cloud architect. Now, when it comes to recruiters, we have to really look at why we want to work with recruiters. We want to work with recruiters because what happens is, empire managers, tell HR they want to hire somebody. Somehow along the line, there's some silly job description that's created. The job description goes and it says, I'd like somebody with 13 Olympic gold medals, 50 years experience in this career, 50 years experience in this career, and 50 years experience in this career. The reality is that's never possible. So then what happens is the people that pass the applicant tracking systems that come in through HR get brought up to us hiring managers, and we interview them, and they can't do the job. Why? Because they got skills in every other job other than when we need them to. So then what we then do up and up is we then call a recruiter and we say, this is exactly what I need. I need someone with this, 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 this. Don't worry about that job description. I need this. And then that recruiter, if it's a good recruiter up and up, will then reach out to the people whose resume she has in her network or his or her network, talk to the people, and bring a very good 2 or 3 qualified candidates to the hiring manager that can interview them. So the key is, what is a good recruiter? And I can tell you lots of good recruiters. A good recruiter is someone that is connected with the employer, someone that knows that hiring manager well, someone that knows that hiring manager's needs and wants, someone that's placed a large number of people in that organization, someone that, for example, when you get their call and they say, I've got somebody for you, do you need somebody, you're interested. For example, I really think a lot of the IT Excel organization in New York City, Christina Marino is the CEO. She's a friend. Steve Aracrillian there is another excellent recruiter. They've placed me in jobs. They've placed people I've trained in jobs, but I know how in tune they are with the customers. When I did my first interview with them 20-some years ago that they sent me on, I remember very clearly, this hiring manager really is interested in this, and this. And they told me that a week in advance. And if that wasn't something that I was an expert on, because the one thing they needed somebody was a multicast person, I was like, yeah, and BGP, I was like, yep, it's good. I would have had a week to prepare, a week to study, a week to improve myself on the things that mattered the most to them. That's a good recruiter. So a recruiter knows that hiring manager. When I get a call from a Christina Marino and she says, Mike, I've got a cloud architect for you, I take her seriously. And I assume they're good until proven otherwise. That's the value of a good recruiter. So a good recruiter you're going to be able to identify them by the way they speak. Do they sound authentic to you? If there's no authenticity in sales, anything's over. Somebody can lie, cheat, and steal for a little bit in business, but then they get smacked down and crash and burn. So if you find somebody that's been out there in this role for a bit, and they're doing well in this role, chances are they know what they're doing and they're connected, because integrity matters in this world, but also capability, knowledge. And you can find there's 2 kinds of recruiters. There's the spray and pray kind, who basically send emails and post fake jobs to a whole bunch of like LinkedIn groups and Facebook groups and post ads, and what they do is harvest resumes. And then when they see there's something, then they reach out to all the people they have and say, come. And then they submit you, and that's not a recruiter that's helpful. But up and up, if you get a recruiter and you talk to the recruiter and you listen to them, how do they present themselves? Do they sound like they've got executive presence, executive communication skills, and executive leadership skills? And if they don't, chances are the employer will not take them seriously either. Which then means, guess what? They're not going to be able to push you or promote you or sell you. So there's that. What is their track record on placement? Where are their employees working? So because it's like an architect, you're going to be able to have to check their competency through communicating with them. So the ability to get somebody on the phone, and you're going to have to get somebody on the phone, is also going to be critical. You need to talk to them and find them out. So determine how connected they are. See if you can find what other people are saying about them. But they need to know the employer. When you ask them this, we've got a job, and you say, tell me what this manager wants. Tell me about this manager. And they can't tell you, that's not a good recruiter. A good recruiter knows her clients or his clients, knows what they want, and knows how to supply them with the people that have the skills and qualities that they want. That's how you do it up and up. And great. I am so thrilled you've been following our work, and recruiters are reaching out to you every day. That's the whole point. We put the right bait out there for you up and up. So now it's a matter of you interviewing them, seeing how powerful do they feel to you. If they don't feel powerful to you, they're not going to feel powerful to the employer. And if they're not powerful to the employer, they're not going to be able to promote you. They need. So interview them. And that means getting them on the phone. Great question, up and up. Love that question. Cameron, good morning. Nate Robinson, it's so nice to see you. Gee, hi, Mike. What are the prospects look like for cloud architect and investment bank versus commercial banking? They're extraordinarily good in either. I mean, there's no business right now that isn't going to be benefiting from cloud architects. Investment banking, retail banking, they're still there, and I don't know that you can necessarily separate it out. Because even your big global banks at this point have an investment banking division, and they have a retail banking division. Retail commercial banking, so you're kind of in the same situation. Now, there are hedge funds in certain places that you can typically work at as a cloud architect or a solution architect. And if you're in one of these boutique shops, yeah, you can earn some serious money in some of these places. Several $100,000 a year bonuses, for example, you can find at some of these big investment banks. But you know what? In a big traditional bank, you can still earn a great living. And, it's less of a pressure cooker environment as well. I mean, investment banking, I've worked there. It's all, serious stress. And, in the commercial banking, it's a little more relaxed. In an investment bank, you're building networks where you've got two users sitting side by side, and each one of them are plugged into different switches. In case a switch were to die, you go to the person next to you and say, execute my trade. So, I mean, we're dealing with that. In a retail bank, we might actually have VPN access to the cloud. So there's different requirements for both. As a rule, when it comes to your technical career, the better you are at tuning and tweaking and optimizing, that's where the real money is. Now, in the investment banking world, especially in a black box trading world, a nanosecond can mean millions and millions and millions of competitive advantages. And a really great cloud architect that knows, keep this in the data center and don't you dare put this in the cloud. Put this in the cloud, put this in the edge, put this over here, connect these things over here. By the way, this is what's going on in the banking industry. This is going to be working with this and this with all kinds of technical business acumen. Extremely good prospects. But think of it this way. You got a global bank that's got 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 remote locations. If those systems go down for an hour, look at how much money's lost. So no matter what, in either one of these cases, there's plenty of money to be earned, and there's a critical need for people. In terms of, maximizing salary, investment banking, boutique hedge funds will give you a little more, but you're going to get more stability in the bigger, more global retail banks. So both are really great. Both are great. And it's a matter of loving what you do. That's really the key. You must love what you do. You must be interested in what's going on behind the scenes in the business. And that's going to be different. There's a different personality for investment banking versus commercial banking as a rule. But in most cases, the big global banks are actually doing commercial banking all at the same time. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Excellent question. And both, two phenomenal places to be. Thank you for the question. I'm happy to answer more. I have a bit. I am from a non-tech background with a gap of a year. Can you experiment? Can you expect a job in the AWS cloud environment? Currently preparing for the AWS cloud practitioner exam. So the question becomes is first, what job would you like to do? And what is your plan to get there? I'm going to tell you right now that the AWS certified solution architect professional in and of itself alone is probably not enough to get any job. But I can tell you how to get to the jobs that you actually desire. And I would be more than honored to tell you that. So what I'd like to know is what kind of job that you're actually interested in. And to just limit you to AWS, I think is a complete and total mistake because we're dealing with cloud computing and all the clouds are the same. So you need to understand the cloud, not a cloud. So the question becomes is what are you interested in? Are you interested in an architect role, which is about designing, presenting, and selling? Are you interested in an engineering career, which is more about building and coding and configuring and automating? Are you interested in a programmer's career, which is a totally different career? Are you interested in an automation career like DevOps? Are you interested in a big data career? So if you can tell me which career you're interested in, then I can help you get there. But just cloud is kind of like the airport. It's kind of like which airplane would you like to get on? And I'm saying, well, I don't know. What's your destination? Is it Bangalore or Baminda or Brazil? And since we don't really know, that's what I'm looking for. So let me know your goal, and then we can get you there. But yeah, you can easily get there, and it doesn't matter if you have a tech background or not. And I get people hired constantly that don't have a tech background, but they do have to get the skills for their career, and it's not going to be covered in certifications. I'll tell you that, but you can do it. I've done it. I went from medicine to tech. People that do it every single day. Up and up. Wow. You didn't know there was so much of it. Is it possible here? Can you tell me some of the good questions that you can use to interview the recruiter? Up and up. So good question. And let's talk more about thinking versus questions. A lot of people, especially if they come from an engineering background, they want a sample question. What's the one question that I can ask somebody that's going to do this? What's the interview question that somebody's going to answer me? What's this? And I really want you to get out of that way of thinking, and I'd really like to get you in the thinking of looking for things. So up and up, there's a body language reading session. For example, if I said, we're not in a recession, the economy's great, we're not in a recession, and you saw the body language of me shaking no while I'm saying yes, you know that there's some lack of truth in there. If I said we're not in a recession, and my head was shaking yes, I would agree and feel that we're not in a recession. But, these are the kind of things that are there. So the first thing I want you to listen for is the person's executive presence. Do they make a point? Pause, make your next point. If they don't, they're not going to be very effective in sales. Because in sales, you need to be taken seriously and your executive presence is there. What does their communication style sound like? Are they empathetic? Are they emotionally intelligent? Do they feel like they can influence others? If you need them to help you sell you, then you need that. So again, you want that. Ask somebody, what's your relationship with the hiring manager like? Huh? Find out. What does this particular hiring manager like in general? Find out. What are those things that this company truly, truly, truly desires? See how they respond. Is it an answer which sounds concrete? Is it authentic? Or does this sound like a bunch of fluff? Where somebody strung a bunch of buzzwords together and you don't understand it? Because that means it's not truthful. So, there's some questions that you can ask like that. But really it's about, looking at someone, ideally on Zoom, the camera on. If not listening to someone, what's their vocal tone telling you? Up and up, when it comes to communication skills, it's only 7% of it is content. 93% of it is the rest. 55% of all communication, according to Harvard University, is what we look like when we say something. Hey, notice me more now, right? And what we sound like. Hi, today, my name is Mike. Hi, I'm Mike. How are you? It's same words, different impact. 7% is content. Kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So gauge their business acumen when you can communicate with them. Gauge their ability to speak clearly. Check how you think if they can influence others. Check their relationship with the hiring manager. Check their authenticity by their body language if you get to speak to them via Zoom. Is the body language congruent with the words? And you'll know if you look. When you meet someone and they say something and you feel a little nauseous and you don't know why, or you don't like somebody, it's because their body language doesn't equal what they told you. And it's causing you to feel sick, like something's wrong and you don't know what it is. So look at your body language, listen to the body language, really ask them about their connections with the people, their relationships with the people, and that's when you're going to get to some really amazing places. Great question, Up and Up. Seriously, great question. Absolutely love the question. Just wanted to tune the approach a little bit because I want you. To me, there's never a hard black and white anything, because as architects, there can't afford to be, because what drives every architecture? What problem are we trying to solve? And generally speaking, the problems are all slightly different. So there's that. Great question. And Chow or Chris or whoever's behind the scenes, if you can change questions and ask us your questions. Bring in some questions. We want to help you build your best career. Hakeem. Hi, Mike. I'm one of your students. I know you're not big on certs, but does the CCDE hold any weight? Hakeem, let's talk about what is the point of certifications. The point of certifications is to do the following: get you an interview. Now, the CCIE in itself is enough to actually get hired as a general rule. Why? The CCIE has a big, giant brand, and everybody knows what it is. And because this failure rate is so high, it's highly prestigious. Now, the CCDE is a great design exam that no one's ever heard of. So it doesn't have the impact that the CCIE has. But Hakeem, what's your goal with the CCDE? Is your goal to become a really great architect? Because if so, you could spend all your time in doing something tech. Or you can spend your time in doing what an architect does, which is digital transformation. So what is it that you really want to be? Do you want to be a great architect, or do you want to be a great engineer? The CCDE will make you a great design engineer. It will make you strong at designing networks, which I love. And it will divert your time, your effort, your thinking, and your money away from all the digital transformation that it's going to take for you to be an architect. And it's going to make you a junior architect with a lot of technical skills. Or you can focus on your leadership skills, your sales skills, your executive presence, your executive communication, your emotional intelligence, your CXO relevancy, your business acumen. And there's there. Now, where do you want to be? You can be a really great CCDE cloud network architect and earn $200,000 a year. And you could be a $400,000 enterprise architect that's got good business skills. Look, you can do whatever you like, but what's going to make you happier? If you want to be more of an engineer, yes, do the CCDE. And it will help you by giving you strong technical design skills. But I would still go focus, before I would do that, on the CCIE, because it's got more brand value. But if your goal is to be a cloud architect or an enterprise architect, and you're going to spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to do a CCDE, and it's going to give you the skills for the wrong career, do an MBA with that. That's going to help you in your architecture career. And I love the network, believe me, Hakeem. My CCIE number is 7417, back when it was a 2-day impossible exam. But and I love networking, but I build careers now. And when I architect careers, I kind of look at, do I go for the high value targets, or do I go for the low value targets? And it came about 20 years ago, a manager of mine gave me some great advice. He said, Mike, and of course I had a CCIE and a bunch of other certifications as well, all the big ones. And he said, Mike, do you know the difference between a $150,000 sales engineer like you and a $300,000 enterprise architect or a $300,000 distinguished engineer? Do you want to know? And I said, yes. And he said, stop working on the tech. He said, the tech's only going to get you so far, and you're already peaked. And he said, what's going to change your career is the impact you can make on others, which means your ability to influence, your ability to sell, your presentation skills, your sales skills, your executive presence, your emotional intelligence, your business acumen, your leadership. You said that's the key to your career. Well, about a year later, I was in one of those great positions. And I've been telling people for decades to focus on the high value targets. Look, there's times where there's low hanging fruit in front of you that you should just go grab. But that CCDE is going to be hard. It's going to take you 1,000 hours easy to do it. It's going to cost you an easy $15,000 to do it by the time you're done and said with everything. So if you think about 1,000 hours, now if an average cloud architect earns $100 an hour, and you spend 1,000 hours on this, which is going to do nothing for your career, versus 1,000 hours focusing on your soft skills, business acumen, leadership skills, that'll do this to your career. So where's your goal? That's the question. If your goal is like an enterprise architect, focus on the business. If your goal is to be this hybrid engineer architect, which is called a technical architect, then do the CCDE. But I wouldn't do the CCDE without the CCI anyway, because the brand isn't as good. Brand isn't as good. But that's the key. So people ask me why I picked certain certifications. And I don't have any love for any certifications. I don't have any love or commitment to anything other than to my students. What I'm committed to is outcomes. Outcomes. And if there was a red pencil that would get my students a 30% raise, I'd make every one of my students buy the red pencil, or I'd buy them and give it to them as part of their tuition. I'm looking for that. I'm looking for the sledgehammer. So, how do investment banks make money? They look for opportunities. How do arbiters make money? They look for opportunities. So when you've got a scale of opportunities as a business Hakeem, and this is why I bet you need to be have such good business acumen, every business can only use its resources in one way. It's called opportunity cost. So for example, if I've got $1,000, I could buy a course which could change my life forever. Or I could go stay 3 days at a hotel with my wife on the beach. Both are options, but I only have $1,000. Which one do I choose? Well, I choose the training, which is what I do. My career. Other people choose something else. There's no right or wrong. It's a choice that you have to make. I'm just suggesting when it comes to your training time, you can spend it on the things that are going to maximize your career, or you can do it for the things that are very interesting and fun, but they won't optimize your career at all. And then you really have to figure out what's your goal. Is your goal because you love it? And if it is, yes, do it. But if your goal is to optimize your career, and Hakeem, I could have sworn that you wanted to be an enterprise architect, and that's why I'm saying this. Go in the direction of the enterprise architect. Here's the last part of it. If you're looking for an enterprise architect, you're looking for an executive with a lot of business relevancy. And once you start looking too technical, you look less executive-y. So the CCDE could actually hold you back from some of the highest positions in the enterprise architect world, because they're not looking for a techie. They're looking for someone that truly understands the technology, has good depth of knowledge of the technology, but it's really mostly executive. That's why architects are not engineers. And that's why our training and path and career optimization processes need to be so different. Excellent question, Hakeem. So, you're from India. You want to do PhD, DS, ML, but don't want to be a professor. Any suggestions what you should do during my PhD to get R&D or DS to get an ML job? So I'm going to give you a couple of pieces of guidance. I'm also going to say this. I'm going to tell you right now that this is not my area of expertise. I will tell you, however, that in certain situations, these machine learning jobs not only take the most in terms of education, they're the hardest jobs to get. And they're much more challenging than, say, getting a cloud architect job, which would pay much more and not require the PhD. And because, we're just not there yet with these jobs being there. So I'm not an expert on this, and I really don't want to comment on a career for which case I don't know enough about. But I do know that I've taken people that were data scientists that have come into my program because it was near impossible to get data science jobs. Now they both have jobs after we've trained them into something different. And they're both fine, incredibly educated and smart people. But the key is just these are relatively hard jobs, but this is not my area of expertise. And I don't want to misguide you. So I don't have a lot more content there. Abigail, so good to see you. Cloud hired this morning. And for your cat Noni, cat hired as well. Collins, what kind of message a recruiter will send you that will ignite your brain that this is a good recruiter? Collins, nothing will. I will call somebody or at least arrange a meeting to try and figure it out. And I will also look at the same things in their written communication. I would look in their auditory communication. Is it well written? Is it proper? Is it logically flowing? Does it feel like they're connected? And, this is kind of one of those things where, it's going to be a bit personal to you to try and determine it. Because if it's a message that's written to you, Collins, I've noticed that you seem to have some remarkable cloud security posts. I'm very interested in discussing something with you further. That's someone that reached out to you. What if it looks like someone that just spews mass messages? I get all these mass messages that every once in a while. I open up LinkedIn in the morning and I get 20 messages from people that are 20 different messages of people that are trying to get me to talk about their stuff on YouTube and want to pay me to do it. I just won't do it because I don't know their stuff. And I'll only promote things or talk about things that I know and love. And it might be the greatest product in the world, but I don't have the time to test it. So there's things like that. So, you look at the authenticity in it. Does it feel authentic? Does it feel made to you? So kind of keep this, in the back of your mind. Authenticity. Do you feel good about it? Is it a personal message or is it a mass message? Is it well written? You feel like the person's got the oomph in them. And then get them on the phone. Get them on the phone. That's why architects are so customer facing. People want to see you and hear you. And at the elite business level, the executives need to see you and really gauge the commitment. Because it's not the 7% words that we care about at the executive level. It's the 93% what you look like and you sound like, because that's going to tell us whether we can trust you or not. So keep that in the back of your mind. Great question, by the way. Gee, thanks for answering my question, Mike. You're definitely going to look into hedge funds and how they've been utilizing the cloud. You're reaching sectors and finance, especially private equity. Excellent, G. But think about the scenarios when they would not be using the cloud, because you need to know that as well. So what can they do in the cloud? What IP multicast things can they not do on the cloud? What should not be on the cloud due to the latency issues of going to the cloud, the speed of light? What should be in the data center because of better disk performance? What could be in a hybrid cloud in the data center connected to a public cloud? How many clouds do you need to look at? So those are really good kinds of things. So think about that. You'll be in great shape. And look more at the network and data center things, because that's where you're going to get the knowledge to do how the things on the cloud. Zach, secure. Hi, Mike. I watched your webinar for a few weeks, enjoying a lot of you along with your birthday celebration, with some tears in your eyes, which is hard to resist. Thank you, Zakira. Honestly, well, Chris and Alonzo truly surprised me with this one. And I have a suspect that Abigail was doing a whole lot of work in that, along with the entire team. I heard that everybody from my video editor to Chow to Leo to even Eddie, they were all working on it. And it truly brought me to tears. Also, when I get to see my students be successful, and I know it happens pretty much every day. Apparently, there's 2 new cloud hires that I just heard about. I don't even know the names, and I'm waiting to hear them today. But these things they just excite me, and I do what I do because I know what it was like. I grew up with very limited means. I knew what it's like to work 3 jobs and fight for survival. And when I found tech, it was it changed my life. And then when I started teaching tech to others, it changed their lives. And it's been 20 years now, and I know so many people that were in a state of poverty that are now in a state of prosperity. I mean, it's everything. And here's the thing: when the students came and surprised me, and I got these messages in every language from all over the world, it brought me to tears. The community means so much to me, but it also means so much to my students. I have students volunteering to write books to share them with the community for free. I have 50 students that are part of a mission called Cloud Heroes Africa, run by my good friend Alphonse Sheng. Amazing person. And 50 of my students are working with him, and I try to come in as often as I can. So yeah, the community and the students, the way they work together, going back and forth, my students truly inspire me. 2 new cloud hires are going to share it in class today. And the realists are going to do it, share it there before they tell anybody else in the entire world. I haven't even heard it yet. And they want to surprise me with it and the class with it. So, these are kind of those things that truly excite us. And that's why we do what we do. And my students love talking to each other. I love my students. We're a big family. So, Zakir, thank you so much. Thank you for noticing. Based upon your name, I'd say shukran, but I'm not completely sure. But it's so nice to see that you're here. And I really do. I love this family that, I helped create, along with everybody else that's part of my school helped create it. And we've grown from 1 person to, I think, now 8. It's just exciting for us. Abigail Marks. Good morning, Mike, with a beautiful cat. Love that, Abigail. What specialties do you see becoming number 1 within the next 5 years? Great question. Abigail, I truly believe that the cloud architect, that will become a bigger and bigger specialty of businessy architects. Because you could see that trend through some of the best and leading technology. So I think there's that. I don't teach it, but I truly do believe that DevOps engineering is going to be an exceptionally good career in the future. I truly believe that. I expect security careers to be among the best because more and more technology is going online. And the more technology that goes online, not only the more attack vectors that can be broken into the system, but the more data that's actually online. More data that, if it was compromised, could cause damage to so many people. So I see security as really there. Now, I don't know what it's going to be like, but I do see some big data career being something big in the next 5 to 10 years. Right now, let's be fair, organizations have barely scratched the surface of what they can do with data. They're trying some things. It's the infancy of data. Kind of like when I started, it was the infancy of the network and the data center. And now these networks and the data centers were there. And then we've been collecting data that we didn't know anything to do with it. So I see some kind of data career, but I see it as somebody that can not only figure out what the business needs, but someone that can interpret that data and present that data and influence the executive management, I think they're there. So we have security. We have some big data thing that we're not 100% sure what it's going to be. We've got cloud architect and we've got DevOps. I actually feel like the cloud engineer is the fifth career of the future. And the reason is, it used to be there's a network engineer. And we still need them, believe me. But not every network engineer needs to be like me, where all you're dealing with is organizations that have 40,000 remote locations, and you're dealing with complicated routing. There are plenty of businesses that only have 50 networking devices. And those smaller businesses that say only have 50 routers and switches, in many cases, they don't need a BGP specialist or an OSPF specialist. And if we had one of those persons that could also do some server and server virtualization work and container work, the junior network engineers of the past, which are basically 80% of them, could be the cloud engineers. And that's kind of there because the networking things now are so much easier. They're just so much, and the cloud does so much of the network and data center simultaneously, so they could potentially do that. So that's the cloud engineer career I do see as one of the top 5. That's why we're already teaching 2 of these. We're teaching the cloud architect and the cloud engineer. I don't ever want to teach anything that I don't think is in the top 10 or the top 5. And there's reasons for that. I like to just give people the chances to rise to the top as fast as possible. So Abigail, those are my favorite for the next 5 years. And I think those are going to be the careers that are really going to be places where people can build something great. Great question, by the way. Secure. Right now, going for security analyst job. However, you have the AWS SAA certification. Like to enroll for LinkedIn and resume and interview preparation and online cloud architect program feedback. Excuse me for the allergies. I have allergies every morning because my cat decides to sleep on my head sometimes and knows when I wake up. I've got red, runny eyes and stuffy nose. Secure, I think the only thing that you would really need, well, first, I don't know what goal career you have, so I'd like to get that before I completely respond. But I would tell you that if you just did our online cloud architect program, specifically the live one, you wouldn't need to register for the LinkedIn resume workshop because it would be included. And there's also some interview training that's inside there. So I think that would be really great. I think that would be probably the best use of your financial resources if you wanted to be an architect. Now, if you wanted to be a cloud engineer, the cloud engineer program would be the best one for you. So next question I have for you is, after we know what is your goal job, do you have a security background right now? And if the answer is yes, great. If the answer is no, it might take about the same amount of time to become a cloud architect, solution architect, as it would be to be a security analyst. And if that's the case, why start with something that's not your ultimate end goal? So the question is, Zakir, what would you like to do? I will tell you this, if your desire is to become a working cloud architect, that cloud architect career development program would be a huge, huge, huge help to you, live or basic. If you're in the live version of the cloud architect program, you're going to pretty much get everything you need because we'll do some interview preparation inside of the classes. And I think that will be incredibly helpful for you. And the LinkedIn and resume workshop is actually included there. But in any case, you'd be fine. If you just wanted to do the resume workshop right now and our interview training, that would help you get the security analyst job that you're looking for right now. And then the online cloud program would also get you, It would help you get your first cloud architect job. So as a care, I wanted to think about 2 approaches. And those would be the 2 approaches that I would describe. You could do, for right now, if you're looking to do something short term, you could use the resume work program, the interview preparation program, and that will get you through the security analyst job. And then the cloud program, the cloud architect career development program, will get you to the cloud architect career development. It'll get you your first cloud architect job. Unless you just wanted to go straight into your first cloud architect job, in which case the only thing that I would recommend then would be the cloud architect program. Hope I answered your questions there, Zakir, and I'm happy to answer more. I just don't completely know your goals. If you tell me exactly your goals, I can figure out exactly what you need to do. I'm always going to be looking for what are the least number of our products that you need to be to get maximum success, because that's all we want to do is get you to be success. We're not trying to sell bundles of things. We don't believe in selling bundles. We believe in getting people exactly what they need to get to their own goal as fastest as possible and as cheaply as possible. Let us know some more. I'd love to respond. Chris or Chow, we can go to the next one. So you have OCD and bipolar disorder, and you want to work abroad. Okay. Any issues with your job if you don't get platform with any necessary medicines? So, Alan, I'm not your personal physician, so let's say that. So, Al, generally speaking, though, patients can work quite fine with bipolar disorder, assuming they're properly medicated. And people that are a little obsessive compulsive, sure, they can work too. But when it comes to obsessive compulsive disorder, we've got our cleaners and checkers. The cleaners are constantly cleaning things, and the checkers are constantly checking things. So it's going to depend upon the degree. If we've got an obsessive compulsive person that needs to check the door 3 times before they leave, it's probably something that's not going to be a big deal. But if we have someone that takes 4 hours to walk out of the room because they got to check the room 4,000 times, that may be a challenge because that'll get in the way of work. So the key is how well the person's managed. And employers have to make reasonable accommodations to deal with people that have personal challenges. And we all have personal challenges. I was involved in a bad accident, now have a twitch, which I deal with every day. I also deal with physical challenges every day because then I have it. But the point is you can still work. So as a rule, anyone can do anything they want if they work hard enough. And if it matters to you and truly matters to you, guess what? There's always other treatment programs you could try. There's everything from medications, meditations, yoga, cognitive therapies. There's literally so many different things that are out there. And when you've got big goals and you've got a challenge, I couldn't walk for 7, 8 years. So I know what it's like to have challenges. You keep fighting for another opportunity, because if you look hard enough, you will find ways to be able to improve yourself. I don't know your situation, so make sure you get good qualified medical care and for these sorts of conditions. But I do know this. I do know I've seen people accomplish incredible things. And I also have treated patients with mental illness that have had some challenges, and they've done incredibly well with the right combinations of medications and therapy. And I've seen incredible things. And so I think you could and should do absolutely anything that you truly desire, whatever that is. Find out what you love. And the reality is, in certain cases, certain careers go well together. If I told you that obsessive compulsive disorder is very good in certain careers like medicine, and here's the reason why. 99% of us in medicine has a small amount of obsessive compulsive disorder. We have to do the job. For example, and then I'll move on from this. In medicine, if you double check your patient's chart to make sure you don't miss something, that might be really a good thing. It keeps you from making mistakes. So see if you can find a way to work within your challenge to make your challenge an asset to your career. Ask us your questions in the chat box. Hakeem, I've been working on elevator pitches as an architect. Any pitch? Any tips? P.S. The course is 2,000% worth every penny. First, thank you so much, Hakeem. Hakeem, so what I would say is this. Keep working on the elevator pitch, record yourself, and then watch it. Turn that pitch in on Slack, and my team will review it. So do that as well. So keep working on it. Work on it and show it to other people that you trust. Personally, I'd find somebody in the community. I'd go straight to one of those channels today and say, hey, I want to work elevator pitches with somebody. Do you guys want to work together so we can have a better elevator pitch so we can both get cloud hired? I bet you find a team of 5 people by the end of the day. You guys all and girls all work on it together, and together you make each other great. And then when you guys have a question, you bring that question into class, we'll smooth it all out, and you guys are going to get better and better. So Hakeem, that would be my recommendation, and I would truly recommend that is, practice, but don't just practice on your own. See, if I practice making the letter L incorrectly 1,000 times, I've developed a bad habit of making the letter L. If I make the letter L perfectly each time, I've learned how to make the letter L perfect each time. So practice makes permanent, not perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect, but practice makes permanent. So the key is make sure it's good. So first, do it yourself, look at it a few times, improve it based upon your gut feeling. Then turn it in and my team will evaluate it. And then, because they know exactly what to look for, and I also look at them as well. And then, poof, you'll get feedback. And then from there, you're going to know what's better. And keep practicing it and practice it and practice it and practice it until it feels very smooth. And then, practice it on your spouse. Practice it on your dog, your cat. And the spouse will give you feedback. Just practice it again. And you know what? Sometimes you're just staring at your cat or staring at your golden retriever. It's rarely there that there's somebody. But no, seriously, find somebody from the Slack channel. Find somebody in class. Come to class today. Ask somebody in class if they want to do it. Poof. You find somebody. You'll be part of a team. And it'll be an incredible experience. James T., good morning. I'm enrolled in your architecture training program, but would like to complete the 002 before it expires. Would watching your AWS training be enough to pass the exam? James T., I'm going to tell you the following. Many people have passed with only what's on my exam, and I'm going to recommend that you get a practice test. Here's the reason why. Our training is geared more towards making you a professional. And we give you enough that you should be able to pass the certification exam. You realistically should be able to. And many people have. But that is not our focus. Our focus is on making you better, making sure you understand what the stuff is, how it works, and why to actually use it. So James T., the answer is you should be able to. There's a company called Review and Prep. My friend Hamad Sharma is the CEO. I trust him. I like him. I think he's a really good person. And he makes it there. The other training that I actually like is Andrew Brown makes very good certification training, part of Exam Pro. And he's got a bunch of test questions that are there as well. But James T., it's really about the practice questions. Because AWS asks these questions in a very strange manner. And you can almost look at these exams as if I was going to try and create a sales rep to go sell certain services, what kind of cool names could I call them, and how could I tell people how cool and exciting our stuff is? So that's kind of the way I see certifications in today's world. So the key is I would get a practice exam at bare minimum, and I would also read our book along with it. Read the book too. Rosella Gold, you're studying for your AWS Pro exam. What are the best steps for studying? You want to be a cloud architect. Great question. Rosella, the first thing that I would focus on is learning the technology. What is object storage? What is block storage? What is file storage? What is a load balancer? What is a firewall? What is an ERP system? What is a REST API? What kind of load balancer do you use for what? How do you secure your systems? Because remember, in the cloud, it's not like your network or you can truly lock your systems down. You might need to make 1,000,001 VPCs, for example, which I think is better than using organizations, or you can use organizations, or you use a combination of organizations. So realistically speaking, it's all about going and finding the absolute perfect thing and the absolute right thing. So keep that in the back of your mind. So I would learn the tech first. I also would understand that, remember, these tests are about teaching you how to sell AWS stuff. And where are sales documents placed? White papers are sales documents that are designed to help you influence an industry. So think, keeping that in the back of your mind, realize if that's what a white paper actually is, I'd be reading their white papers. And then I would get a practice test. And I would do about 500 of these questions, because these questions are asked in some of the craziest ways I've actually ever seen in my entire life. The content on the Certified Solution Architect Professional is very, very basic. The way the questions are asked is very, very difficult. So I kind of keep that in the back of my mind. Rosella, I think you can do great. Build your fundamentals first, then practice the questions and read the white papers, and you should be good to go. Good question, though. Mohammed, what is the name that designed the stuff in the computing papers? So, Mohammed, I'm not really sure I understand your question. Designing systems is architecture. So what it means is, let me take a step back, Mohammed, and let's talk about a building architecture, because it's the same job. It's just where the things are. If I had a building, right, and I wanted to build a building, say I wanted to have Chris on the other end of the screen here, open a new hotel of the future. And this hotel of the future was going to be this digitally automated hotel where, we'd walk in, and as soon as we'd walk in, it would recognize me by a facial imprint. And then I wouldn't have to walk to the front desk because it would have access to my credit card. And then as I'd walk to the room, they would know my dietary constraints and restrictions. And food could be sent to my room based upon my desires. They could set up a special phone between my cat and me, so that while I was traveling, I could still see my cat Cindy, so I could feel safe and secure about my cat. The hotel would be, 1,000 meters tall, have 2,000 rooms, and have giant waterfalls. If that's the case, and I'd reach out to Chris and say, Chris, hire an architect. And the architect would design it. And then Chris would then say, okay, now that the architect's designed it, now I need an engineer to go build it, or a construction crew to build it. So, Mohammed, what are we talking about? In the data center, there's routers, there's switches, there's firewalls, there's VPN concentrators, there's servers, there's hypervisors, there's load balancers, there's business applications such as databases and ERP systems and CRM systems. These are the kind of things that are in the data center that we move to the cloud. So this is exactly what we're talking about, is moving those things to the cloud. Now, what is design? Design is the orchestration piece. So think of it this way, like a conductor of an orchestra. If I can play the guitars, and somebody else can play the violin, and somebody else can play the flute, we got 3 people playing 3 different instruments. Now, just because Joe, Bob, and Sally can play their instruments independently does not mean they can play together as an orchestra. So the conductor is there, and they're leading everybody to put together. They're making the magic happen by getting all the people and parts working together. That's what we actually do as architects. We figure out which technology pieces and parts can improve a business's performance. So that's what an architect is. We are not technical people. We are business people who ask a business about their business challenges, and then we help craft a technology solution to go solve those business problems. So that's what that means with regards to a cloud architect. So we have to design the building or the architecture. We have to present that building to the customer. We have to sell that building to the customer. We have to build a business case to show the customer that it's worth buying it. And we have to connect to everybody from the CEO to the engineers. We present at conferences. We write thought leadership documentation and white paper documentation. That's what we do as architects. So I hope I answered your question. If you like further, please feel free to ask some more. G. Whenever I schedule time to build technical competence, you find yourself researching cloud infrastructure startups that impact time to market, revenue, and prosperity. The business aspect is very exciting. Great. Here's the thing. You need to know how this stuff works, G. If you don't know how it works, you can't design it. So you must know how it works. Must know how it works. But how it works is not the same as how to configure it. Totally different. For example, I know how to drive. And I don't just know how to drive. I've taken tactical driving courses, emergency vehicle operating courses. I know how to drive under critical situations. Driving. And I don't know how my engine works. I don't know how my brakes work other than I push the button, but there's some kind of thing going on under the hood. My car has got a glow plug in it, which I don't even know what that means. And it's got some kind of diesel fuel additive to make it make less smoke or smog or whatever that. So the point is I don't know how that stuff works. I just know how to drive my car. And the key is, the competency for the architect is how does this stuff work? How to put the pieces and parts together. And that's the key. How do we put the pieces and parts together in a magical environment to make it better? So yes, as the architect, keep reading about the business, keep reading about why. If you don't know how to improve revenue, market share, productivity, G, you don't know how to do architecture. So good. You're doing what most people don't do, which is focusing on the critical reasons. The business drives the architecture, not the other way around. Up and up. The community is gold. You have made so many friends. I have people reach out to you personally and offer me all the help I need. I didn't expect it at all when I purchased the course. I am so grateful for the community you have created. Virtual hug. Up and up. Virtual hug back to you. Up and up. This is one of these things that just makes me so happy to wake up to. It's been an incredible week so far. My brother's in from Philadelphia. My wife's actually home instead of traveling this week, which is even more exciting. And I had this birthday party where I got to speak to people from all around the world. Got a bunch of cloud hires this week, and messages like this up and up make me so happy and grateful, and thank you. So thank you so much. I'm so happy. James T. I want to help transition my friend's business to the cloud. Medical homes with 5,000 clients. Would that be a project worth pursuing as a perspective? Pros and cons. Well, first you have to tell me what you mean by medical homes, because the American Medical Academy has defined a medical home as an internist, basically, who holds the records to somebody, or a primary care provider. So I don't know if that's what you're talking about, because that, realistically speaking, in most cases would be one doctor and their systems. Would it make sense to put them on the cloud? Most likely not. And here's the reason why. If it's just one particular office, and that's traditionally what a medical home would be, we're dealing with a situation where we could probably buy a $20,000 server a $10,000 firewall and use that for 5 to 7 years and with no other expenses. And if we tried to do that on the cloud, it would get much, 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 much more expensive. We could have 2 backup servers. So I probably wouldn't bring something like that to the cloud, especially if their technology is already working and it's paid for. But there's nothing better than free. So it all depends on what they're doing. Now, if I was dealing with 10,000 homes and each home had a tremendous amount of biomedical devices in there that were all IP enabled Internet of things, that one might be easier to basically put a VPN concentrator in the cloud and have all those things go on a cloud server that could scale in case the 5,000 clients became 500,000 clients. But generally speaking, I wouldn't be bringing a doctor's office onto the cloud. I think it would be much better, faster, and cheaper to stay off of the cloud. Better performance, lower latency, not having the risk that if the cloud goes down, the office is down. And that means you need to put your systems in 2 or more availability zones and/or regions to be able to get to medical levels of availability in the cloud. And I think that's going to get way, 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 way too expensive. And James T., that's why the architect really needs to look at things holistically. Is the cloud the right choice? Yes. Good. No, not so good. Tell you one thing, James T., it's a whole lot cheaper for us, by about 85 to 90% cheaper to run our own cloud than it is to use a public cloud, because of the gear we currently have here already and because of the expertise we have in-house. So it's really about those kinds of things. Endgame cloud security architect already in the architect program, but have an internship as a cybersecurity architect. Would it deviate from your goal? So James T., there's no such thing as there's no difference between a cybersecurity architect and a cloud security architect. The job's identical. Cloud security architect is dealing with the cybersecurity in the cloud. Cybersecurity architect is dealing with the cybersecurity on and off the cloud. So you'll get great experience, James T., by doing that, because you're going to be doing more security architect work, which is the same job. So no, that's not a deviation at all. Now, James, if you said, hey, there's an internship as a cloud engineer, I'd say, yeah, that's a different career. But this is the identical career. So this is like you're one of the few that's rare that can rarely get an internship as an architect. So go do it. I think it's great, great, great. James, congratulations. That's exceptionally great, great news. Very happy for you. Ask us any questions you have. So Khan, thank you, sir. Your words motivate you. Mr. Khan, I think you can do wonderful, wonderful, wonderful things. And I hope you do. Abigail Marks, we are all here to help. There are groups in the community that work on labs, presentations, AWS study groups, and interview preps. Thank you so much, Abigail. Abigail's been incredibly helpful in forming some of these groups. And yes, we've got a robust community that was actually Chris's idea in the beginning. He said if you use a platform like this with the culture that you've built, we'll have people working together, and it's been the best idea. I'm so excited. So yes, love how we started with, just Zoom community and LinkedIn groups, and then LinkedIn and Slack, and then the students have taken advantage and created their own meeting groups and subgroups, and we're super excited about it every single day. Thank you so much, Abigail. Actually, while we're at it, next week we're going to have a very, very, very special How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. Please make sure to sign up. The link is in the description below as well as the chat box. And while we're at it, since it's my birthday week, we have 30% off of everything to help you get cloud hired. And then Chris or Chad, you can go to the next one. One time. Do you recommend the engineer role or the architect role for someone who has zero experience in tech? One time. Let's talk about this. I recommend you do whichever job is going to make you happier. It doesn't matter which one you start with. I personally feel it's easier to get an architect job than an engineer job because there's less to learn from many people. Having said that, I don't think that there's any of these good jobs. All take a lot of effort. So here's the thing: what do you want to do? That's it. An architect like me designs a solution, presents the solution, and helps sell that solution back to the customer. And I love it. The cloud engineer is a hands-on techie. They code, they configure, they deploy and implement, they even do some infrastructure as code. So one time, what's going to make you happier? Architects going to be in meetings half of the day. They're going to be giving presentations and writing, communicating. It's the whole job. We don't touch the tech as architects. Cloud engineers, hands-on techie. Which one should you do? What do you enjoy to do? If you didn't have more fun presenting at a conference than writing software, or coding or configuring or writing a script, become an architect. But it has nothing to do with your background. For example, Romanik Ivan Tamba's first job, that wasn't while he was in college as a solutions architect. We worked with him. His job before that, he was serving food at a restaurant. Coyote was a college student hired by AWS with zero experience with our organization. Jermaine was a landscaper selling landscaping equipment, and he just got his first cloud architect job. Delroy was an EMT, and he got his first cloud architect job. Daniel was selling shoes at Nordstrom, and he now has a cloud architect job. I could give you example after example after example. I've gotten people their first network engineer job. So it doesn't matter what job you want. It's just pick the job that you want and train the skills for that job. So one time I'd say, what would you like to do? When you know what you'd like to do, well, then you go do it. Find out what you like. Determine all those things that you need to be for that job that you like. Assess where your starting point. Build the gap analysis and build a plan to get you from your starting point to your destination. And you'll be cloud hired. We've got our program to get you to your first cloud architect job. We also have a program to help you get your first cloud engineer job. The real key is, what would you like to do in your life and career? Figure that out, and then that's your answer. And if you'd like to ask me more about different components of each job, happy to do that too. Great question, though. Mohammed, sir, how can you learn to build a private cloud from the ground up? Virtualization, grouping of hardware, you got certified in cloud computing, and you know how to build the CRM or a VRM. So I don't know what you mean by CNA. I'm thinking certified nursing assistant. And VRM, I think you're dealing with virtual rights management. So that's why we, as architects, we can't communicate in acronyms because we make errors. And those errors can cause business challenges. We must use simple, plain language. How can you learn how to build the cloud? Well, Muhammad, there's two ways. You can take our training, and we'll absolutely teach you. Or you can learn all about clouds. You can do the research. You can look into OpenStack clouds and look at Nutanix clouds. Read their documentation, learn the network and data center things, and build the cloud. Now, to build your own cloud, to let you know, you're going to need to buy yourself a server. It's going to cost you about $2,000 minimum. And you're going to be building a single server cloud, which is a little questionable, but it's okay. It works great in a lab environment. So make sure the server has a minimum of 16 Xeon cores. Make sure that it has a minimum of 128 gigs of RAM. And make sure you have at least 3 SSD drives in RAID 0 or an NVMe drive. And then start reading the directions from the people that make cloud software and build it. And when you're building it, all those things that you don't understand along the way, which are going to be 80% of them, research each and every one of them. And then you'll have some knowledge on how to build a cloud. Or you could take a course like ours. Now, to be fair, our main course where you could attend live classes right now with my birthday discount is $700, which is a third of the cost of the server. And our basic course without the live classes is $350 with the sale right now, which is 1/6 of the cost of the server. So that will be my recommendation. And you'd even get the education on how to become a cloud architect at the same time. But any way you want to do it, you can do it. But get the right server hardware and read the documentation and do it. Good news, a lot of the documentation out there, this kind of tech documentation is free. No. It's free knowledge in terms of how do I figure out how to configure BGP, not free knowledge on what is BGP, how does BGP work, why should I use it, how do I tune it and tweak it. The knowledge out there is for the most part on how to configure things. And I don't know why, but only a few of us like me actually talk about the underlying piece, in case you can't do the job without the underlying piece. Then again, most people don't study fundamentals the way that I would either, because to me, it's all about how deep can you go. Because in my life, people were saying, Mike, build this. And I said, do you have any references or anybody that's ever done this? No, Mike, nobody's ever done it before. Go figure it out. So when it comes to that, it's all about strong fundamentals. That's my recommendation, Bob. I've given you some options there. And then Chris or Chow, we can go to the next one. Up and up. Mike, can you give an example of what a day of work is like for a cloud security architect? Up and up, I'm going to do that right now, and it's going to make you laugh hysterically. There may be one day where you don't do anything other than go to Zoom or WebEx or Microsoft Teams meetings. The next day, what you might do is go to meetings for 2 hours, go visit your client, take your client to lunch, and then be in a meeting, and then write a white paper, and then work on a presentation. The next day, you'll be working on that presentation throughout the better part of the day, attend 2 meetings. The next day, you'll be in meetings for all day, all day, all day. And then the next week will occur, and you'll deliver a presentation. You'll be working on another white paper. Then you'll be building a presentation to present at a conference. Then you'll be building a presentation to present to some executives. Then what's going to happen is you're going to get a call from a generic cloud architect, and they're going to say, hey, can we get together in a meeting and you can give me some security guidance? And then you'll go provide recommendations in that meeting. And then you'll have another meeting. And then you'll have another meeting. And then you'll have another meeting. You'll be responding to RFIs, RFPs, RFQs, writing scope statements of work, documenting and or drawing architectures as well as writing around it. What won't you be doing up and up? Touching the tech, coding, configuring, DevOps, sysops, and mentoring. But you'll be in meeting after meeting. The great news is we get paid a whole lot to go to meetings and offer our opinion and listen. So for the most part, that's the job. And up, it's really hilarious. Every time, and if you came to the Tuesday show this week, when Chris was kind enough to, amongst others, to really arrange this wonderful birthday present, and I started to see my working architects, the first thing I said is, how many meetings do you go to each day? And they all laughed hysterically and said all day long. So we go to a lot of meetings. Here's the thing. Pretty easy to sit in a meeting, talk. I think it's the best job in the world. But yeah, don't think you're going to be doing any kind of cool hands-on technology things, because you won't be. This is a job of design, present, and sell. Or they could call it meeting after meeting after meeting. Right here, right now. Would you say where you live matters for a role like cloud architect? You currently live in rural Illinois? Yes, it does. Not as much as it used to right now, right here, right now, but it does matter where you live. And I've chosen to live in 2 types of environments in my life, and I'll give you an example right here, right now. At one point, I worked in New York City. And I don't love being in big cities, but I worked in big cities. So I lived in Princeton, New Jersey, commuted to New York City every single day. And here's the thing. It took me about 2 hours to get to New York City every day. But I didn't really have to travel because I was in New York. Global bank, internet service provider, global bank, so I didn't have to do a lot of traveling. And then years later, I wanted to move to Florida because I'm not a big city person. I don't like cold weather, and I like warm weather, the ocean, and palm trees. So years later, right here, I moved to Florida as an architect about 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Now what? Right here, right now. Now, all of a sudden, there's no Fortune 100 customers in Florida like there was in New York City. So now I attended virtual meetings. We have WebEx for year after year after year after year. Worked great. And I would jump on airplanes and I'd fly to the client's site to meet the clients much more frequently. So there is an impact on where you live. The amount of travel will be greater if you don't live in a major city. There is often more opportunity in a major city, not always, but sometimes. But here's the thing. I've been working now remotely for 20 years, and you can do it. And as a rule, you can always move someplace else if you needed to. But in today's world, if you're really good, you'll be in good shape. Really, really good. That's a great question. And it really is. And to some degree it matters, but to other degrees not so much. It matters much less now than it used to. That's really good news right here, right now. Sure. Mike, am I ready for my first job after passing the solutions architect and having hands-on labs experience? I also have a website with your cloud projects. Well, I don't know what job you're talking about, but I will tell you this. If your goal is to be a cloud architect or a cloud engineer, just having the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Professional and lab experience in a website is about 5% or less of what you need, and you're going to need 95% more. The Certified Solution Architect Professional is kind of like almost an intro to the names of the services and how to configure them, but without telling you what they are, how they work, and why you would use them, and giving you any of the underlying things. So, no, that's not really enough for a cloud architect job at all. It's also not enough for a cloud engineer job. Websites have nothing to do with what we do as cloud architects, for example, or cloud engineers. And if you've done projects like I've been seeing people do a bunch of little silly Git projects, for example, that like certification providers are doing. If you wanted to be an architect, for example, that will make it look even worse for you. So the key is, no, you're going to need some kind of architect training, and you're going to need to know if you want to be an architect, or if you want to be doing engineering, you're going to be doing some engineering training. And but no, the certification of itself is not going to be enough for anything. But the right knowledge will be enough for everything. So if you tell me which job you're referring to, I can tell you what's missing from just the certifications. Because there's different knowledge missing for the architect and the engineer, because the jobs are completely different. So if you tell me the job you want, I can tell you what you need to do in addition to the certifications to get hired. But know that certifications and a website of projects is generally not enough for anything. But you can do anything, and you can be successful at anything. It's just learning those other things which really work. And I'm happy to tell you what they are so you can go learn them and master them. While we wait to find out, Chris or Chow, we can bring in the next one. Up and up. You saw a guy on my show who was on the way to see his clients at the pub. Absolutely up and up. I will tell you, we architects spend more time working on entertaining clients, pubs, golf courses, for example, getting to know clients, getting to build strong relationships, establishing rapport, finding out client wants and needs and goals. That's what we do. And here's the thing. The business problem is what drives all of our transformation. And how do we find out that business problem? We talk to the customer. The more we get from the customer, that will determine exactly the right information for the architecture. The tech doesn't drive the architecture. The business problem designs the architecture. The tail doesn't wag the cat wags the tail. So yes, exactly, up and up. We're gonna have a lot of meetings, a ton of them, a ton of them, a ton of them. We're gonna have to lead clients, ask our management teams, for resources. We might be entertaining them too, just to get there. So yes, lots of meetings at pubs, lots of fun times, up and up. Great question, and thank you for noticing. Mike, is our cloud architect program enough for the AWS Solutions Architect Professional? You're taking the exam? Well, what I would say is that the Certified Solutions Architect Professional is not enough for anything on its own. And we do, in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, we cover the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Professional, but I will say you will still need a practice exam for it, because ours is focused on what people do for a living, and you need some kind of practice exam that's basically certification focused. So I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend that you find a good practice test or two and do a lot of practice questions so you can get used to the weird way they ask those questions. The exam itself is very basic, but the way they ask the questions with basically 4-line questions that are like a paragraph, by the time you finish reading the paragraph, you can't even remember what the question was about because it was written with such poor communication skills in such a wordy, ugly fashion. So I would say you should get really good at reading poorly written questions. So I would say that's something that I would truly, truly be focused on, is making sure that, making sure that you've got the skills to do the job, and then use those practice exams to get used to the way people ask questions so you can master those questions. Hakeem, Mike, I think the car license analogy you just gave about the cloud was perfect. Thank you, Hakeem. And that's really what I wanted everybody to really get. When you really know it, you can work anywhere, just anywhere. And I want to make sure that you guys, and guys, I mean, people in general, I want to make sure that you've got the tools that are there, because we never know what life is like. You may think you're going to work on AWS and work on Azure instead, and it's really the same stuff anyway. I did. Thought I was going to only be working on Cisco. Next thing I realized, in my second job, I'm working on these extreme network switches. They're good switches. And then I'm working for a competitor of Cisco called Riverstone Networks. And then I worked for Cisco. And, it's kind of like, the way things change, you never know what it's going to be there. And, I worked in big internet service providers, and they didn't just have Cisco routers, they had Juniper routers too. And if I only knew the Cisco way, I wouldn't have been able to work anywhere, even though they were the dominant player. It's about having the total skills, the total package, the full agility to truly, truly, truly be there anywhere and truly capable. I've got about 10 minutes left. If there's another question, I can possibly do 1 to 2 more questions. Ask them now in the chat box. Otherwise, I hope you had a great call today. So I'll give you one last chance to answer a question or two. And otherwise, I will see you guys on Monday, except for my students, who some of them were here, which I will see in class very soon today. Direct Connect versus AWS Private Link, they're not even related. A direct connection is how you build a connection to the cloud, and Private Link is how you can connect 2 VPCs inside of the cloud. So they're totally, 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 totally different. And this isn't really related to how to build your cloud architect career. This is a question and answer time. So if you want something like that, that would be the kind of thing you could get from our cloud architect career development program. How and when to actually use these. When to use direct connection versus a private line versus a VPN solution versus software-defined networking versus SASE. You need to know that. And that's not covered in any certification either. And how do you optimize private link? Again, that's not going to be covered in any certification. And that's what we teach these kinds of things in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. But this is a time where we're talking about career questions. And so let's make sure that we focus on career questions. Chris, is there any other career-based things? And Sarah, thank you for asking your questions. Your apologies for not being clear enough. That's fine. You want to be a cloud architect and will sit for your cloud practitioner exam. Chris, can we go back to the first part of that just so that I can refresh my memory? Are you ready for your first cloud job after passing your solution architect professional exam? No, not at all. So here's what's going on. So I want to make it clear that the basic certified solution architect professional exam is an exam of here's the name of a service and here's how to configure this. Now on Shar, we architects don't configure anything. And we can't use those names of those services with our clients because if we do, they'll laugh us out of the building, we'll be fired, and our replacements will thank us for the next job. So when we deal with a client, I need to talk to them about their object storage, not S3. When I deal with a client and they tell me about their 20,000 virtual machines, I need to be able to deal with that and orchestrate the move to the cloud. When we're dealing with an application that needs not that a nanosecond is a competitive advantage that means millions of dollars a day in profitability, and it can be in the right cases, we need to know how to tune that. Now, what we do as architects primarily is move stuff from the network and the data center to the cloud. Now, the certifications don't cover what is that stuff and how does that stuff work, which means you can't do the job. So in addition to passing the Certified Solution Architect Professional, which is kind of like an intro to junior level cloud, the next things that you would need to be able to know in order to work as a cloud architect or a solution architect is as follows. On the networking side, you'll need to know BGP. It would be optimal if you understand some interior gateway protocols, at minimum OSPF. You're going to need to have good, strong knowledge of subnetting, supernetting, route summarization, route aggregation. You're going to have good knowledge on when to use which WAN technologies. When do you use a VPN like an IPsec tunnel versus an SSL-based VPN? When would you then learn use a private line versus an Ethernet over MPLS version of a private line versus software-defined networking versus SASE? You will need to know switching, which means VLANs and VLAN tagging and VLAN trunking, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree. You will need to understand things like virtual router redundancy protocol and how they partake in high availability WAN. You will need to know about NAT, one-to-one NAT, one-to-many NAT, static NAT, dynamic NAT, and all those other things. Not just using NAT as a NAT gateway, because it's far more than that. You will need to understand DNS, DHCP, ARP, proxy ARP, and those things. Now on the data center side, you're going to need to know real deep about servers and server virtualization and containers and container orchestration. And block storage, object storage, file storage, relational databases, no SQL databases, and not the cloud proprietary ones, because in most cases we can't use them because they're proprietary. Security appliances, IDS systems, IPS systems, VPN concentrators, and those types of things. Authentication systems, ERP systems, CRM systems, and other business applications. Now, on Shore, realize we are not engineers. We are executives, so you must have to design, present, and sell. So keep that in the back of your mind. This is why no certification is ever going to get anybody a cloud architect job. None of them. And why you need training. The next thing you have to realize is the cloud architect is an executive. So unless you're used to selling things that are over $10 to $50 million, you need to have training in the following. Business acumen, because you're going to be building business cases. Emotional intelligence, because you're going to need to connect people and lead people. Leadership skills, because the architect is going to be leading large teams of people. Executive presence, because you're going to have to be in a room with executives and C-level executives like the CEO, and they're going to have to feel you and trust you, so you're going to need to feel weighted. You're going to need training in what's called CXO relevancy, because what you need to communicate to the CEO is different than the CFO, which is different than the CIO, which is different than the technology people. You'll be writing white papers and thought leadership documents. You'll need executive writing training. You will need be giving presentations in front of audiences of several thousand people, so you'll need executive presentation training. You're probably, unless you're also going to need some interview training if you're going to go for an executive career and you lack experience, and this is an executive career. And lastly, you're going to need some negotiation training. That's why we created the Cloud Architect Career Development Program, and that's why our students are getting hired every single day, because it's the correct training and those are the skills. But there's nothing in that basic AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional that's enough to get anybody any job anywhere. It's too basic, and it doesn't cover any of the components that we do in our job, which is design, present, and sell. Great question, though. You work as an operations engineer with sound networking knowledge. In order to become a cloud architect, you need to learn Ansible, Python, and Terraform. No, cloud architects don't touch the technology. We design, present, and sell. We are not engineers. So learning engineering things like Ansible, Python, or Terraform is not a benefit to an architect's career. Okay, so Sarah, I have a question. Can we directly get an architect job after certification? Not at all. Do you need to get another job? No, not at all. But you need to know what is a cloud architect, how does the cloud architect work, and be trained for the cloud architect job. The AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional is about a name of a service and how to configure that service, and it has absolutely nothing to do with what we do as cloud architects. So you have two options. You can learn how to become a cloud architect and make it your first job, like Delroy Batt, our student, Romanak Ivan Tamba, Jennifer, Jermaine, Coyote, Daniel, Delroy. The solution architect job was their first job. No big deal. But they were trained for it by us with our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. Now, all of them were certified prior to us, and no employers cared about them at all because they had certifications, not skills. So no, you don't need a job first. Now, if you got certifications, even the Certified Solution Architect Professional, I don't think that alone would get you any job ever. And if it did, it would be a junior cloud admin job. And you could do that junior cloud admin job for a couple of years. And then if you're lucky, you could get out of that and turn into a cloud engineer. And then if you're lucky, after that, you could do cloud architect training and then become a cloud architect. And here's why I hate that approach. Because if your first job is a cloud architect job like my students is, and our average starting salary is between $120,000 and $275,000 a year, that's better off than trying to do a certification and get a job at the bottom like $30,000 or $40,000 a year and work 10 years to get to that $150,000 job. Because here's the reason: the person's going to lose $70,000 or $80,000 for 10 years straight. So that's $800,000 plus they lost the 10 years of career advancement to get to the bigger and bolder jobs. So I recommend you pick the job that you want, learn the job that you want, and understand that that's not enough to get anything, just certification. But I think you were here when I answered the last person's question. And if you are not, please join us on the completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar next week. And I will tell you everything you need to know and everything that you need to study. Or you can take advantage right now of our 30% off, which is a massive discount on our training, and get your first cloud architect or first cloud engineer job based upon the course that you take. So I'd like to thank you all for your time today. Thank you all for your questions today. Hope we've given you some guidance on getting your first cloud architect job, your first cloud engineer job, your first solution architect job or enterprise architect job. Join us Thursday on the How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. Join us on the LinkedIn and resume workshops to get recruiters to come to you, like my students get recruiters coming to them every day. And lastly, if you want to get your first cloud job, take advantage of our Cloud Architect Career Development Program or our Cloud Engineer Career Development Program. Thank you so much. Give me a hashtag Cloud Hired, everybody.